All right, so question number 9. Which element is expected to show the greatest tendency to form a covalent bond? So that would be what? Aluminum. Or if the option is given as beryllium, that's what you mark. Because we know aluminum has a smaller radius, greater charge, therefore more polarizing power or greater charge density, and therefore it can form covalent bonds. A crystal of iodine produces a purple vapor when gently heated. So they are saying that so you have iodine crystal, so that is iodine solid. This gets vaporized and you get a purple vapor. So they're saying you get iodine gas, which is a purple vapor. All right. Which pair of statement correctly describes this process? So you're going from solid to gas. So you're definitely heating it, right? So when you heat, which type of forces do you overcome? Do you break the bonds? No, you break the intermolecular forces. So when you are converting iodine solid to iodine vapor, this is what we break. We break the intermolecular forces. And which forces does iodine have? It will have temporary dipole, induced dipole forces, right? You do not break the covalent bonds because I told you during melting, boiling, you don't break covalent bonds, you break the intermolecular forces. So the bond remains intact, you see, is why iodine vapor or iodine gas is also I2. Yeah. Now, so you obviously A and B can't be the answer. Which forces do we overcome in iodine? We overcome induced dipole forces. Therefore, D can also not be the answer. And the answer is C. And what is the purple species? The purple species is iodine gas, which exists as I2. Clear? Yes? All right. Question number 15. Nitrogen and carbon monoxide both have MR28. The boiling point of nitrogen is 77 and carbon monoxide is 82. What would be responsible for this difference in boiling point? So you know that boiling point also depends on what? It depends on intermolecular forces. Yes? Now let's see the intermolecular forces in nitrogen and carbon monoxide. So this right here is a nitrogen molecule with another nitrogen molecule. Is it a polar molecule? No, nitrogen is non-polar. And therefore, which type of forces will we have here? We will have temporary dipole forces or temporary dipole induced dipole forces. What about carbon monoxide? So carbon monoxide right here is what? Polar. So this would have permanent dipole forces. So which has stronger forces? Carbon monoxide. So first thing they say, carbon monoxide molecules have permanent dipole forces and nitrogen is non-polar. That is true. Yes? Nitrogen has pi bond, sigma bond. That has nothing to do with melting point or boiling point. Boiling point, melting point depends on intermolecular forces. All right. So the nature of the forces are different. Therefore, the answer is A. Moving on to this. Which of the following statements are correct for the sequence of compounds shown below from left to right? So when you're going from sodium fluoride to this SiC, where you have silicon and carbon. Now you know metals and non-metals, they make ionic bonds. And non-metal with another non-metal will make what? Covalent bonds. So do you see you are going from metal, non-metal, metal, non-metal, metal, non-metal to a non-metal, non-metal? Do you see that? Yes. So can we say we're becoming more covalent as we go from left to right? Yes. Now the electronegativity difference between the elements increases. Is that true? No. We know across the period electronegativity decreases. And therefore silicon and carbon will have almost similar electronegativity. Yes. So when you're going from left to right, the electronegativity difference does not increase. It in fact decreases. So if one is wrong, the answer is always C. And let's see option 2, that will be correct. The formula unit of these compounds are isoelectronic. What do you mean by isoelectronic? That the number of electrons will be the same. You can count the number of electrons for these and they will come out to be the same. The bonding becomes increasingly covalent. That is also true. You're going from ionic to covalent. Yes, the answer is therefore C. If one is wrong, if you're sure one is wrong, answer is always C, because if one is wrong, it can't be D, it can't be B, it can't be A. Answer is always C. If one is right and two is wrong, the answer is always D. Because if one is right and two is wrong, that means there's no other option where 1 and 3 are correct. So the answer will always be D. Clear? All right, moving on to question number 5. Which molecule has an overall dipole moment? Carbon monoxide, does it have a dipole moment? Yes. PH3, does it have a dipole moment? Yes. Carbon dioxide, does it have a dipole moment? No, because the dipoles cancel out due to symmetry. Yes. So this does not, these two do have dipole moments, and therefore the answer is B. Question number 1. A slow stream of water from a tap can be deflected by an electrostatically charged plastic rod. Why is water molecule polar? So they are saying, why is this polar? Polar means you must have a partial positive and a partial negative end. Yes. And why do we have a partial positive and a partial negative end to begin with? That is because oxygen has a higher electronegativity and hydrogen is less. So there's a difference in their electronegativity. This is why it is polar. Yes. So they're saying molecules are bonded together by hydrogen bonds. That is true. You do have hydrogen bonding in water, but that doesn't explain why it is polar. The polarity or the partial positive and negative ends is due to the difference in electronegativity. The answer therefore is B. They have different electronegativities. Question number 2. When heated solid iodine, we know solid iodine is I2 solid, and you overcome the temporary dipole forces to make iodine vapor, which is I2 gas, which is a purple vapor. So they are saying, what does solid iodine exist as? We know it exists as a molecule, I2. What about gaseous or vapor iodine? That is also a molecule. The answer therefore is D. Question number 4. Gecko, a small lizard, can climb up a smooth glass window. Gecko has millions of microscopic hair on its toes, and each hair has thousands of pads at its tip. The result is that the molecule in the pad are extremely close to the glass surface, blah, blah, blah. What is the attraction between the gecko's toe pads and the glass surface? Now, gecko is a lizard. I mean, that does not have ionic bonds or doesn't have like a lattice structure on its toes, right? So we have some force of attraction between one surface and another. So that should be an intermolecular force. Yes, obviously, definitely not ionic bonds or covalent bonds or whatever. So that will be what? We know by default, every molecule has which type of forces? Van der Waals forces. So between gecko and the glass surface would also be Van der Waals force. In which process are hydrogen bonds broken? So first you need to identify where you have hydrogen bonds. Does H2 have hydrogen bonding? No, this is not hydrogen bonds. We know hydrogen bonding is an intermolecular force, which is if H is bonded to an O, or H is bonded to an N, or H is bonded to an F, given that the electronegative element must have at least one lone pair. H2 does not have hydrogen bonding. So that can't be the answer because there is no hydrogen bonding. What does it have in fact? It has temporary dipole forces. Ammonia. Does ammonia have hydrogen bonding? Yes. And you see what's happening from liquid to gas. Are you overcoming hydrogen bonding? You are boiling it, you see, from liquid to gas. So when you boil ammonia, you are basically overcoming hydrogen bonds. That's your answer. C. HI, we know that doesn't have hydrogen bonding either. This has what? Permanent dipole forces. CH4 also has what? Induced or temporary dipole forces. Yes, the answer therefore is B. Question number 9. Which statement explains why the boiling point of methane, so methane is CH4, is greater than that of neon, which is Ne. Now you see both are what? Non-polar molecules. So this will have temporary dipole forces and induced dipole forces, and so will this. Both will have the same type of forces, but one will have probably stronger forces than the other, is why the melting point or the boiling point is different. Let's see. And you remember the strength of intermolecular forces depend on two factors, number of electrons and surface area. Now, definitely we know methane, if it has a higher boiling point, that means it has stronger intermolecular force compared to neon. Molecule of methane has a greater mass. It probably does, but it does not affect the intermolecular force strength. Mass has nothing to do with the intermolecular forces. And does it really? I don't think so. Methane is CH4, so that's 12 plus 4, so that is 16. And neon is 20. So that is anyway not true. Even if it was, it could not be your answer because intermolecular force does not depend on the mass or the MR. Molecules of methane form hydrogen bonds. No, methane does not have hydrogen bonding because it's CH4. C and H have similar electronegativities, not hydrogen bonds. Molecules of methane have stronger intermolecular forces. Yes, they do, than those of neon. Molecule of methane is polar. No, it's not. Is this clear? 11. Ability of an atom in a covalent bond to attract electrons is called electronegativity. The greater difference between electronegativity, the more polar is the bond. Which pair will form the most polar covalent bond? Now, if you see right here, over here, we only have halogens, right? Halogens are group 17 elements. The top is fluorine, then you have chlorine, then you have bromine, then you have iodine. I told you the most electronegative is fluorine. And we know what is the trend in electronegativity? Down the group electronegativity decreases. So this has the highest electronegativity. Which will have the least? Iodine. So the difference between these two will be the greatest. Yes, this will be the greatest. So wherever you see F and I, that is your answer, which is D. Clear? If F and I was not if that wasn't an option, then it could have been F and BR. If F and I was not given, let's suppose. Do you understand this? In which change would only van der Waals forces have to be overcome? Now you have to overcome them. That means you have to break them, right? Now let's see the first one. Only van der Waals forces. Now back then, there's been a little slight modification in your syllabus now. I told you that all three intermolecular forces collectively are known as van der Waals forces, yes? But more specifically back, before the change had been made in your syllabus, the permanent dipole forces and the temporary dipole forces were known as van der Waals forces. Now we just say all three are van der Waals. But back then, we used to consider mostly the temporary dipole induced dipole, we used to call them van der Waals because those were the weakest. The rest of them, because they were stronger, we did not really refer to those as van der Waals forces. So the question is obviously older. So it may confuse you because you may think that all three forces are van der Waals, so we should overcome all three. But no, by van der Waals here, they imply temporary dipole induced dipole forces. So over here, they mean temporary dipole forces. All right, because these are the weakest and van der Waals forces are also very weak, is why we used to call these van der Waals forces. Now let's see ethanol. In ethanol, do you have to only overcome temporary dipole forces? No. Ethanol has which type of intermolecular forces? Ethanol, we did this yesterday. This has hydrogen bonding because it has H with an O. And this oxygen will have lone pairs. So this has hydrogen bonding. So this can't be the answer because in this you will have to overcome hydrogen bonds. Melting of ice can't be the answer. Ice is H2O. Again has which type of intermolecular force? Hydrogen bonding. Melting of carbon dioxide. This is a non-polar molecule. Which type of forces will this have? Temporary dipole. Butane, again, C and H. This will also have temporary dipole. So you already eliminated A and B. Now you'll be like, okay, so C and D both have the same type of forces. So where are we overcoming the temporary dipole forces? Overcome means that you are changing the state by giving heat, right? Over here, you are melting. When you melt, you give energy. Yes. So here you are breaking the forces to go from solid to liquid. Here, you are not breaking the forces, you are forming the forces because you're going from liquid to solid. So solidification does not overcome forces and those forces are formed. Yes. So here forces will be formed and here forces are you overcome forces in C. Clear? Do you all understand this? Is that it? All right.